Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another video in my income tax series. My name is Gaurav Lohia and I'm a chartered accountant. Uh, in the previous video, we had discussed about the residential status of individuals, the basic conditions, that is section 6.1, the additional conditions, section 6.6, the exceptions to those conditions. Today we are going to discuss about deemed residential status of HUF, residential status of companies, and all the other persons, residential status of all the other persons. That would conclude our topic on residential status, right? So let's begin. So we'll begin with deemed resident. We are beginning with deemed resident. What is deemed resident? So deemed resident, basically it means is that even though a person is not satisfying the basic conditions or the additional conditions, even though a person is not satisfying the basic conditions and the additional conditions, the law would treat that person to be a resident. The law would treat that person to be a resident. So there are certain conditions under which a person, though they are not satisfying the conditions under section 6.1 and section 6.6, they will be deemed to be resident, right? So deemed resident is section 6.1a. Section 6.1a. So what are those is, first is the person has to be an Indian citizen. The person has to be an Indian citizen. The first thing is the person has to be an Indian citizen. Second is the total income. Total income other than foreign income. Total income other than foreign income should be more than 15 lakhs. Other income more than foreign income should be total income other than foreign income should be more than 15 lakhs, right? If these two conditions are satisfied, the person can be deemed to be resident. But why? So there's a third point to this. What does it say? The person should not be paying tax in any other country. The person should not be paying tax in any other country due to his domicile or resident. So basically, that person should not be paying tax in any other country due to his domicile or resident. That means that person should not be resident in any other country. If a person is not a resident in any other country and the total income in India is more than 15 lakhs and they are an Indian citizen, then they are deemed citizen. Deemed resident. Then they are, if these three conditions, it is and all three are and, they would be deemed resident. That person would be deemed resident, right? So I hope this is clear. Here ends our residential status for individual. Here ends our residential status for individual. Next we will look at residential status of HUF. So HUF. When it comes to HUF, the residential status is determined based on, this is by the way section 6.2 subsection 2. In cases of HUF, the residential status is determined based on the control and management of affairs. Control and management of affairs. What does it mean is, it does control and management of affairs does not mean the day-to-day activities of the business. It does not mean that. It means where are the key decisions of the business being taken place, right? The whole of business can be conducted in India. However, the key decisions of the business can still be taken from outside India, right? So first thing is you determine where the control and management of the affairs is. So if the control and management is wholly or partly in India, then then the HUF is resident. Then the HUF is resident. If the control and management of affairs is wholly outside India, then it is non-resident. Right? So, two conditions here. One is if the control and management of the affairs of the HUF are wholly or partly in India, then it is resident. If it is wholly outside India, then it is non-resident. Remember this, even if they say partly outside India, partly within India, no matter the percentage or the proportion of control and management of affairs being handled in India, it would be resident. Even if 1% of the control and management is in India, then it would be a resident. But like we have it in individuals, we have it in HUF also, that is resident and not ordinarily resident. What is the condition for that is? The condition for that is if Karta is RNOR, then HUF is RNOR. If the Karta is RNOR, then HUF is RNOR. If Karta is ROR, then HUF is ROR. So what this means is that if the Karta is satisfying both the additional conditions, then the HUF also would be deemed to be a resident and ordinarily resident. But if the Karta fails to satisfy any of the additional conditions, and by that virtue, the Karta becomes resident and not ordinarily resident, then the HUF would also be resident and not ordinarily resident. Now here one more thing you have to see, the Karta might be non-resident, but however the HUF can still be a resident, right? It would fall under resident and not ordinarily resident. Next we'll look at company, or before coming to company we have similar, we'll look at others. I'll just write others covers everything. Others covers your everything like AOP, your firm is partnership firm, your LLP or AOP, your BOI or local authority, etc. Right? Others cover everything. Same thing here as well. We have to look at the control and management of affairs. Control and management of affairs. Same condition, wholly or partly in India. Wholly or partly in India, then resident. If wholly outside India, then non-resident. Oh, sorry, non-resident. Right? Very simple for firm, LLP, AOP, BOI, everyone. If the control and management of affairs is wholly or partly outside India, then resident. If the control or management of affairs is wholly outside India, then non-resident. Remember, even if 1% of the control and management of affairs is handled through India, then then the person would be resident, right? And here, what does control and management mean is it is the main key decisions which are required to run the business. It is not the day-to-day activities. The day-to-day activities could be anywhere. However, the control and management has to be determined. The control and management has to be determined. That is, the key decisions of the business has to be determined. Only and only if all the affairs, that is, all the control and management is outside India, only then it would be a non-resident. Now, like we had a condition in HUF that if the Karta is resident and ordinarily resident, then HUF also would be resident and ordinarily resident. We do not have a similar condition here. We do not have a similar condition here. No additional conditions. No additional condition. Right? So that basically means is no concept of RNOR. No concept of RNOR. So when it comes to firm, LLP, AOP, BOI, and etc., local authority, there is no concept of resident and ordinary resident. They can either be resident or non-resident. There is nothing else here. If they are resident, they are completely resident. If they are non-resident, they are completely non-resident. Right? So this is clear, I hope. Next, we'll look at company. Company is also similar, however, the terms which are used are different. What do I mean by that is, when it comes to company, Section 6(3) provides the conditions under which a company would be resident. So, when it comes to company, there can be two types of companies, right? One is an Indian company. One is an Indian company, and the second one is a foreign company. One is an Indian company, and the second one is a foreign company. When it comes to Indian company, there is no other condition or no second thought about this. If it is an Indian company, it is always resident. It is always resident. When it is an Indian company, it is always resident, right? There is no second thought about it. When it comes to foreign company, we have to determine POEM. What is POEM? POEM means place of effective management. Place of effective management. POEM means place of effective management. Now, like we discussed what is control and management of the affairs, this is something similar. What does it mean is where the management is taking decisions related to the company. It's not the day-to-day operations. A foreign company might have certain part of its operation in India, certain part of its operation outside India. It might have majority of its operations in India. However, what determines the residential status is the place of effective management, right? If the place of effective management is in India, then the company becomes a resident. So POEN if in India. If it is determined that place of effective management is in India, then the company becomes a resident. If the POEM is outside India, if the POEM is outside India, then it is non-resident. Then it is non-resident, right? And like we discussed in partnership and other persons residential status, here there is no concept of R and OR. There is no R and OR, right? So do not get confused. R and OR, resident and not ordinary resident, is only applicable for individuals and HUF. For all other entities, there is no R and OR. They can only be resident or non-resident, right? So here ends our topic on, this ends our topic on residential status. Our section 6 is now covered. In the next class, we will start with scope of total income, section 5 of income tax. Another very important, so please remember, these are the basic structure or the roots of income tax law. Unless you understand these sections, unless you clearly understand these sections and grasp the concept of these, you will not be able to solve complicated problems when we get to calculation of total income under salaries or the other heads, right? So in many cases, the first step would be determining the residential status. So this is very much important. Do let me know if you have not understood anything. Please comment down below what you understood, what you did not understand. If there is a particular problem you want me to solve, please either share the link of the problem or let me know if it is, give a reference to the problem anyway in the comments. Do like the video if you did like it. If you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like it. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.